I am sometimes accused of being an Uber bull when it comes to Tesla, and that I just make up numbers out of my head. That was a claim that was made on Twitter the other day. It hurt my feelings, and I felt real bad for about 5 minutes, because 5 minutes later, Elon Musk liked one of my tweets. That was the first time that's ever happened to me. And of course, that made my day. Anyway, I'm going to be throwing out a number here later today that is going to seem unbelievable, but I think I'm going to make the case. And if I don't, hit the comments below. Tell me, no, Randy, you didn't make the case. And, here's what it should really be. And you're just out of your mind and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and then if you do like the fact that I cover the news from the weekend that maybe you would like to know before the market opens rather than hearing about it after the market closes, that's what I try to do every Monday morning. Hopefully this news is valuable to you, helpful to you, and maybe even you learn something. Hit the like if that's true. Hit the subscribe and notify. I'm telling you, there's some really good stuff coming this week. You are not going to believe the stuff I've got lined up. Larry Goldberg, Wang, Brian White, and some subject matter that you're not thinking about. Believe me, it's going to be really fresh and really new in many, many of these cases. So also Patreon, $5 a month, you can be a producer of this channel. And thank you to all the Patreon folks that are supporting me now. I really appreciate it. You can't imagine how much. Okay, let's see now. I am having trouble finding my information. Here we go. I found it. Now let's see if I can actually read it. All right. So Elon Musk is building. This is number. I'm not burying the lead here. I'm going to give you the very first thing. Okay. I'm going to give you it right off the top. Elon Musk is building 7 gigawatt hours of 4680 production in the United States. Right? We know this, right? This is not news. This is not the news part of what I want to tell you today. It is not, it should not come as a surprise to you. He's building 100 gigawatt hours in Austin. Now, that should be up and running. I think it'll be fully ramped up first quarter. And he's going to build another 100 gigawatts after that in Austin. And then he said that he's going to build up to 500 gigawatts in Reno. Now, I can't imagine why he would build less than that. So when he says up to, it seems to me that he's basically saying, I'm going to build 500 gigawatts in Reno. So that's 700 total in the United States. All right. So if you take 7 gigawatt hours and, you multiply that times $45 per kilowatt hour, which is how much you get if you get $35 a kilowatt hour if you build the battery. And then you get $10 a kilowatt hour if you put the battery into a pack. I will assume that all 7 gigawatt hours will go into a pack, either for the car or for energy storage or some other application, who knows what, but it'll go into some kind of a pack that will qualify. So that's $45 times the 7 gigawatt hours. That is $31.5 billion. All right. That's $31.5 billion per year. Okay. So I know that's a big number, and it's like, okay, that's what the company will earn as a result of being a manufacturer of batteries. They're not going to get that from the cost to the sell of the battery. They're going to get that from the US government just for doing it. All right. Well, this all came about as a result. I've been talking about this for months. If you follow me regularly, you know that months and months ago, I put together a chart and showed you exactly what I thought Tesla would be making month after month, year after year into the future with regard to these credits. Now, the credits I just mentioned, those are just the ones from Tesla's own battery manufacturing, not the savings they're going to get from other people's battery manufacturing and or the putting into packs of those batteries that they get from third parties here in the US or that qualify. And that's going to be another bunch of money. I'm just talking about 31 billion from the 7 gigawatt hours that Tesla will manufacture and put into packs of their own batteries. So Bloomberg comes out and they're reporting, oh, it's going to be $1.8 billion this year. And so they report this, And I'm going, okay, I could buy that number. That's close to my number. It could be a little more. But Zach Kirkhorn said it would only be between 150 million and 250 million per quarter, which would only be a 1 billion maximum. And Bloomberg is even saying 1.8, and I'm saying it might be more than that. So somewhere that's off, and it's going to be hard to find all of this money because some of it's going to end up in the cost of goods sold. So it would be good. I'm hoping that Zach will give us some kind of a better understanding of how all that breaks out at the second quarter earnings, because it would be nice to know how much we're really getting in terms of these IRA tax breaks. All right. So, so we're talking about $1 billion or $1.8 billion this year. I'm saying that Tesla will be they'll be up to their full run rate of 100 gigawatt hours on Austin next year. They will start manufacturing in Reno next year. They've already said they're going to do that. So I'm saying, let's just say it's 100 gigawatt hours next year. Well, that would be 4.5 billion next year. Again, not counting third party, not counting the Panasonic 30, 40 gigawatts that they get from Panasonic and put into packs, not counting any other third parties that they're buying from, not counting they might do more than 100 gigawatt hours. But just based on that, it would be 45 billion. I'm sorry, 4.5 billion next year in terms of these tax advantages. That's a lot. That's significant. It's something that should be in people's analyses in terms of what the profits are going to be for Tesla next year. It's either going to be in cost of goods sold, it's going to reduce cost of goods sold, or it's going to be in a separate line that shows the advantage of these tax incentives. So the following year, I'm saying it doubles again, at least. So we're looking at, 9 billion the next year. We might be looking at 18, 20 billion next. It might take 4 or 5 years to get to my 31.5 billion number. And remember, that's not everything. It doesn't count the third-party makers. So nobody's got this in their numbers. I'm saying at some point people are going to start putting them in the numbers, and when they start realizing, I mean, this is the second report in a couple of weeks talking about these numbers. I want to say the other one was Morgan Stanley that have mentioned these numbers, and they've had very different numbers, different than each other and different than me. So, but I'm telling you, my numbers, I've gone into some real detail to try to figure this out. Anyway, I'll do another video on this sometime where I go into details exactly of how I've come to these numbers again. And we'll see. It should impact the stock. You would think it would be impacting the stock. All right. So a couple of more, several other news things. The Audi executive, an Audi executive, according to Lars Strandritter at Best in Tesla, who's a co-author of the book, the Elon Musk Mission, which if you haven't bought it yet, why not? It's still selling very well. Thank you very much for those who are buying it. I did see a tweet the other day where Scott Walter's cat was wrapped around a hardback cover copy of it. And he suggested that was the one that got bought and probably by the cat. And I always thought it was my mom that bought the one copy we've sold. But anyway, so if you haven't bought the Elon Musk Mission, it's time to buy the Elon Musk Mission. Okay, so this Audi executive said that customers have I know. He was asked something about the Tesla Advantage in terms of the superchargers. And he kind of ducked it. And he said, well, our customers, they usually have multiple vehicles. And so they can take their gas cars on longer trips. If that guy doesn't get the hook on Monday, I don't know, something's wrong. I don't know which Audi executive said it, but somebody above him, if there's anybody above him, get the hook and get this guy out of the company, because that was a pretty stupid thing to say. So is that how it's going to work? Every other car manufacturer that doesn't use Tesla charging stations is going to have to suggest to their customers that they hold on to at least one gas car for taking longer trips. Well, that was only part of the news from the executives last week. Of course, we had Ford the previous week making our day. Last week, GM's Mary said that Tesla is the leader in battery electric vehicle tech. I can only say one thing to you, Mary, duh. And so finally, Mary has admitted this. All right. We also have a report talking about, so connecting the dots, one of my favorite video guys, connecting the dots. He put together a video, and what he wanted to do, basically, I think what his main effort in the video was to say, is there enough lithium? And is there enough refined lithium in order to get where we're going, in particular, enough to get where Tesla is going? And as usually, did a fantastic job. The video is well worth watching. I highly recommend you go take a look at it. Well, his research suggested that Elon says, hey, got lots of lithium, it's everywhere. And all we need is more refining capacity. And connecting the dots went out, and his reporting came back and said, well, you know what? There could still be some problems with lithium, because there's this 5, 7, 10 years from the point that you discover a potential lithium source, between that day and the getting all the permitting and getting it set up and drilling down to find out where it is exactly, and designing the mine and designing the equipment and coming in and all of this takes a very long time, and then it has to be produced in such a way as it can go to a refiner and then be refined for final use. Well, that apparently is 7 years minimum, although I think Elon thinks that can be done faster as well. But connecting the dots basically came out of this saying, look, there might be a need for a lot more lithium, and hopefully there's a lot of people right now trying to produce that lithium. It seems like there's a bunch of companies that are trying to take advantage of the IRA and other incentives in order to bring some lithium out of the ground. And there probably is a shortage of refining, but what we know for absolute certain is right now, if you pull it out of the ground in Canada, or you pull it out of the ground in Australia, or you pull it out of the ground in Chile, these are some of the main places where it's being, where you have the mining taking place. You pull it out of the ground in those places. Now you have to put it on a boat. You got to send it over to China to be refined. And then after China gets done refining it, then they got to send it wherever, to some battery manufacturing facility to get. So now this very heavy material, this very inexpensive to begin with, the cost is going up, as well as the cost in terms of pollutants. So much better if you are going to pull it out of the ground in Canada, send it down to Texas, pull it out of the ground in Chile and send it up to Texas in order to be refined, and then send it about 6 blocks, okay, a couple of 100 miles up to Austin, or a few 100 miles down to Mexico, and you use it in a very, everything's more localized, which saves tremendous cost in transportation. So the other thing is in terms of geopolitical. So having 90% or something of the lithium refined in China, yeah, if they need to hold you to, if there's a problem and China wants you to stop doing what the problem is, they can just say, well, we're not going to give you any more refined lithium, and you might have to bow to the leader. So that's not good. So connecting the dots felt that maybe the main reason for the refinery plant in Corpus Christi is because you don't want to be beholden to the Chinese for 90% of the refined lithium in the world. Okay, so that was story number 2 or 3, I forget. Anyway, Tesla superchargers are now providing 6 billion miles of energy per year in the United States alone. As Elon would say, let that sink in. So check out my video last week with Larry Goldberg, where he gives his predictions of the future profits of the supercharger business. And the numbers are impressive. In fact, I was impressed. His numbers were much higher than my numbers. And you know me, I'm usually the highest guy on the block. Yeah, and Goldberg's numbers, though, he went to a lot of detail. He got some special insights that none of us had seen before that helped him to get to his numbers. And Tesla is going to make a lot of money off of supercharging and megacharging. We didn't even get into megacharging on the video. Just supercharging alone, the numbers are really, really up there. Interestingly, we didn't even get into how much money Tesla will make at the supercharger stations based on arbitrage of energy or other services that they might provide at the supercharger stations. So the numbers could be really, really dramatic. And what Larry and I are going to talk about this coming week he's a venture capitalist. He's a what do you call it? An angel, and works with other companies that do venture capital. And he's also owned a number of fairly substantial companies, including companies that were involved in AI, I think AI, but certainly in programming and data. Larry is going to talk about how he would come up with a current valuation for the Optimus division. That should be really interesting. That's why you want to hit notify, so you can find out when Larry's going to be on. All right. Next story, last round of incentives and the price cuts on Model 3s is reducing inventory. So you heard, probably, if you're paying a lot of attention, you know that there's been discounting on the inventory, not on the new product, not on new Model 3s, but on inventory that's sitting in the lots, and it was getting a little up there. So Tesla reduced the cost on some of those, gave some special price breaks, some special incentives, and as a result, the numbers are starting to reduce. There's also some reports from folks out there that are saying that the Tesla showrooms are very busy. One little thing for those of you who don't watch all the time, I'm just going to throw this in again. The current U.S. auto fleet is the oldest it has ever been. So there is pent-up demand for new automobiles. This is going to have an impact. It might have an impact in July. It may not have an impact in September. It may not have an impact till next March. At some point, folks are going to have to buy that new car, and that's going to have an impact. All right. Troy Teslike is still showing deliveries in the second quarter under 440. He only thinks Tesla's going to deliver like 437,000 cars or something this month. I think that's nonsense. And so does James Stevenson. James Stevenson just put out his new report. He's showing that Tesla will deliver 505,000 cars. Now, both of these guys are admired. Both of these guys, everybody who cares gets their data, and they spend tons of time, and they go into the minutia that I would never go into in order to get their numbers. But they're 10% apart. They're over 10% apart on this second quarter number. I don't understand how they can be over 10% apart, except that I've been saying 490,000 for months. I think that's what I started predicting back last year. It was 490,000 in the second quarter. I still think that's the number. I don't think we'll get to 505, but we could. Now, how do I get to my numbers? I always get to my numbers by looking at the production capacity. And of course, Troy looks at production capacity too, but he has to be assuming that because we haven't shut down any plants yet. He's suggesting that maybe they're going a little slack, I think, in Shanghai, compared to what they could be making, but they haven't shut down they haven't shut down the third shift or the fourth shift. They haven't, I don't know how they're going to make less than 500,000 cars. It's going to be very hard to make less than 500,000 cars. So 505 would be a lot. That would mean you have to dig into inventory. I don't think they'll be digging into inventory this particular quarter. But 490, that would mean they build another 10,000 in inventory, maybe. You're going to continually build more inventory. You're going to have more and more cars in inventory because you're building more and more cars. And as a result, you've got more and more that are in transit and that are, that's just the way things work. Okay. What you're looking for is the days of inventory. And last month, I think it was last quarter was 16. So I would look for it to stay around 16, but we'll be building way more cars than we did in the first quarter. So anyway, that's my number is 490. As I mentioned in the video that was up on Sunday night, if the number is 460 or above, 470 or above, the stock market is going to react. It has to react. That'll be a substantial number. Of course, we won't know that for almost 4 weeks, but we'll see what happens. And if it's my number, 490, if it's James Stevens' number 505, oh my gosh, the market will definitely be reacting to that. Now, what about the margins? So I think those will increase also. I think they'll be back over 20%. In fact, I think I am exactly where James Stevenson is. He's at 21.5. I think if I went back, I didn't go back and look at my numbers, but I think I'm at 21.5 also. Obviously, we won't know that until, the third week in July. But if that turns out to be the number, we are off to the races. My 300 number will be long gone. That can happen in the second quarter. I've been saying it's going to happen in the third quarter. But truly, if we hit 500,000, 470, 480, 490, and also 21.5% margins, yeah, we could be past 300 and moving up from there. Next story, Dave Lee. He always has a great take on the big issues. He did a quick video yesterday morning or Friday night, I'm not sure which, talking about the Truth GPT relationship with Tesla and X Corp. So if you're not keeping up on this, Elon Musk has renamed Twitter. It's X Corp and then / Twitter and then X Corp and then / GPT, Truth GPT. And he had just bought $250 million worth of NVIDIA computers in order to create this chat GPT, this Truth GPT. He has said very specifically that he doesn't think there should only be two players, Microsoft and OpenAI. He thinks there needs to be a third player. It seems to be a lot about truth because he thinks both of them are playing fast and loose with the truth in terms of their sourcing of information, as well as the way that they're managing the information, because you still have humans that are making decisions about how to program these things. So he wants Truth GPT. He's going to get Truth GPT. You can be assured of that. But how does Tesla play in? He specifically said that, like the Microsoft relationship with OpenAI, there could be a similar relationship with Tesla and X. And so Dave Lee thinks, he believes that he wants Truth GPT to be part of X because Tesla is a public company. And then all of a sudden you get into all these problems of investors, of institutional investors and ESG and similar reasons for not investing or investing. And I don't think he wants to have that overhang. I don't think that's Dave Lee saying it, and I agree. I don't think he wants the institutional investment class to have some kind of power to tell him how to run Twitter or Truth GPT. So I think that's why it's in that corporation. Dave Lee thinks that Tesla will actually make a large investment, a big percentage investment in X Corp. And that way they will have an investment in both Twitter and Truth GPT. And that they will also, there will be a lot of mutual relationship stuff going on. I mentioned that already about a week or so ago. I think there'll be tons of mutual stuff going back and forth between Tesla's capability in managing large language models or managing any kind of deep learning, Dojo, et cetera, all of those things. And then the other side of it is Twitter has the data. They have massive amounts of data that they basically have in a proprietary way that other people can't get to. So lots and lots of opportunities there, but that was, I thought, very interesting. So he thinks it'll also be, by the way, he also thinks it'll be a resource that Truth GPT will be a resource for Optimus, which of course I've mentioned multiple times in the last 2 weeks, is that I think Optimus needs to be able to talk, listen, and correspond like ChatGPT does now with you, so that it feels like a real relationship. I think that will absolutely be happening. So that's it for today. By far the most important news was Elon Musk liking one of my tweets. Well, that was my most important news, but that makes my day no matter what else happens today. But one of the things that I really loved doing today was talking to you. So it's been great.